Another great weekend full of action of rugby, and it matters a lot because it's the season finale, 2024-2025 HSBC Sevens World Series, going down in Los Angeles. Kabil Danji, looking forward for a very exciting season because you have the Kenya Sevens, the Lionesses, all in action.
Yeah, look, they've... it's an exciting end, and Los Angeles, the city of angels, and we wonder whether our angels, our lionesses, have what it takes to go through. Personally speaking, I would be surprised if they don't qualify. I think, their form coming through the Challenger Cup has been exceptional, with the exception of Poland. But as we've discussed previously, we think, the coach was trying a few things, so understandable, but we still finished third, a very respectable third. Mm-hmm. So I think we have every chance of climbing to the top.
The Lionesses ready to roar at the Angels of Los Angeles.
Kabisa.
In California. And all thanks to M-Pesa, because M-Pesa have come through for both Shuja and the Lionesses to where they are right now, because they had a smooth sailing, all reaching there. Everything was sorted for them. But Kabir Danji, something that I'll need to mention before we start delving into what the Lionesses will put for the country. As you've said, they are eager to qualify. But things have changed towards the end, thanks to the IRB or World Rugby, because you've seen some changes. Lionesses, we are waiting for them to make that historic move, for them to be the first Kenyan side to play at the top tier, at the HSBC Sevens World Series. But it's not going to happen. What are you going to say, or what are your thoughts about the new changes that came up yesterday for World Rugby?
Look, ill-timed. I think that, making changes or announcements like this late, you have to wonder how it affects player psyche, planning, a lot of things. To me, some questionable decisions. But there's not much that we can do about it, right? Like the decisions have been made. It is what it is. There's not much we can do, but I don't think, or I hope that it doesn't affect the girls' performances. Coming back to M-Pesa for a second, there was a quote by Coach Dennis Mwanja, where he said, camp was good. They focused on skills and details, and they're ready to go. They just want to focus on playing their style of rugby, and he's sure that they'll go it. And I think that it struck me that being able to say that is only because you get sponsorship from someone like M-Pesa that allows you the time and space to do that. So rather than worrying about your travel arrangements, your accommodation, your training grounds, when everything is taken care of, this is what a sponsorship does for you. When your team is looked after, you can focus on the details of the game. And it sounds like their preparation has been excellent. This is what they've been allowed to do. So, there's for me, there's no excuses for the girls.
No excuses for the girls. They're out there to perform. But again, I agree with you, Kabir, that it was about timing from the World Rugby for them to announce, because why wait the entire season? The players have played. They have played the Challenger Series. In the case of the Lionesses, they just know you just need to finish top 4, and you're playing in the core status for the World Rugby 7 Series. But again, the season has ended. World Rugby comes and announces a new format that will see categorize it into 3 divisions. The Division 1 is the top division, where you're going to have the top 8 teams for the women's side that are going to compete there. Division 2, it means that they're only the top 4 teams that are going to compete there. Then you have Division 3 that will see the regionals competing and the playoff and promotion going there. So irrespective of what the Lionesses will do tomorrow, and we're wishing them all the very best, we know the Lionesses will roar in Los Angeles starting this weekend. But again, they still remain to play where they were in Division 2, meaning that if they finish top 4, because now they're looking for top 4 so that they can play in Division 2. They cannot go to the top 8, which the Division 1 is already decided, which is the core-stated side, which means the teams that finished number 1 to number 8 already, they are inside there. Kenya Lionesses has never been in the World Series. They were playing in the Challenger Series, hoping that they can qualify. But now, what now we are fighting for, Kabir, as the Kenya Lionesses, is to play in Division 2, that means that we finish number 4, either number 1, 2, 3, or 4, meaning that we reach the semi-finals. If we don't, then number 13 to 16, we drop to the third place division. The third division, according to the new format, means that you're going just to play in the region. The region means that you play in the African continent, and then you find your way back at the top. But again, let's now concentrate on what matters at hand, that Kenya needs to play in Division 2 and finish in top 4.
Just before we go there, Alex, again, I'll just repeat it. It's poor timing, but there's not much that we can do. I don't know that we're necessarily here to question World Rugby, but it is a questionable decision. Why? This is not something they thought of overnight. The timing of the announcement is horrific. Like I said, it affects player psyche.
Because you're also denying other countries opportunities
Correct.
for them to play in the co-status. Because if you are fighting for equality, the other teams who have never played in the co-status, let's say the Kenya Lionesses in this instant, this is the right path. They were just four, I can say just almost 2 matches or 3 matches
games,
away from qualifying for the co-status. They have played the entire season. They played in the Challenger Series in Cape Town, won it. Cape Town 2 won it. They came and finished third in the last leg. So what are you telling them? I think it's disappointing from the World Rugby, because by the time that these teams, let's say the Kenya Lionesses, fight itself to play in the co-status, probably we might not see them playing the co-status. Kabir.
Yeah, the other thought that I had was that this decision could have potentially been made but implemented next season, so that you allow the current status quo. It's like a law. As long as you're compliant with the old law, the new law doesn't take effect until you've played out the old law. So under the old laws or rules, we could have gone up, which I think we had every chance of doing. And then, when this rule is implemented next season, if we happen to be not good enough to be amongst the top 8, and that system applies, then fine. But I think that applying it so quickly, so drastically, perhaps a bit short-sighted.
Short-sighted, and I agree with you in terms the players need to put their heads high, because it came at the last minute. They had psychologically prepared, as the coach has said, that they were looking forward to qualify for the main co-status series. But that said and done, Kenya in Pool A, they're playing against Colombia. They're facing against a team, Spain, that was dropped from the co-status. They're playing against Brazil, a team that was dropped from the co-status. Colombia, Kenya has faced, because they played against each other in the Challenger Series, though they know each other. I think Kenya has beaten Colombia in all the encounters that have faced each other in the Challenger Series. But again, look at a team like they were the teams that have dropped from the main World 7 Series, that is Brazil, and then you're having your Portugal as well. Not Portugal, Spain.
Yeah.
They are very strong sides, Kabir.
Look, what surprises me, again, we'll try to not make it the focus point of this conversation, but the old format allowed for something very interesting, which is a core part of Sevens rugby, is that Sevens rugby is about playing consistent rugby in a format that allows any team a realistic chance. So unlike the full 15s game, where you clearly have some dominant forces in the game, in Sevens, if you look at, to compare it in the men's game, when Kenya were trounced in Vancouver, only to come back in Singapore to be, to finish second, anything can happen. And it's same is true in the women's game. So I'm a little bit surprised that, this is the way that it's going to go, because I think the format of the game allows that anyone, so long as they're playing good rugby, consistent rugby, top quality rugby, to be able to beat another opponent. And it means that these teams like Brazil, Spain, Colombia, we have a point to prove. Will we be good enough to play in Division 2? Because, there are 8 teams vying for 4 places. So I think that in itself should be a focus for our Lionesses. We deserve to be there. Let me just say that. Undeniably, I think anybody, whether you're a fan, whether you're a technician of the game, whoever you are, Kenya deserves to be there. In fact, in my opinion, we deserve to have made the core, but we'll be robbed of that opportunity. And I do think we're being robbed. But needless to say, we'll be in Division 2. And I think we're going to... It's a step forward. No matter... Yes, it's a tough hand to be dealt, but we're there. The girls know what it takes to play at that level. You know, finishing top of the Challenger Cup. And it wasn't, we were convincing winners of the Challenger Cup overall. So we played the most consistent rugby across the entire season. And it's my belief that these are the girls to take us through to the core status when we get the opportunity next.
Of the three teams, that is Spain, Brazil, and we have Colombia, which one will give Kenya hard time? Spain.
Yeah.
Not Brazil.
Look, again, on paper, we've had this discussion before. On paper, the teams look a certain way, but you never really know what to expect because sevens can allow for anything. I just think that the Spanish run a very wide game. They don't play a very tight game, a compact game. And so they'll stretch the girls. We haven't really played too many teams who play that style of rugby. Spain had a few good games against some of the bigger core teams. Not that Brazil and Colombia didn't, but, they just seem to me like they don't play a style of rugby that we're very used to. Mm-hmm. So if anyone has a chance of upsetting our systems tactically, it's probably them. And I think that Brazil and Colombia is a more conventional kind of rugby where I think that the strength of the girls and their speed will be key factors in pushing us through.
Looking at the teams, Kabir, for my take, I think both Brazil and Spain will give Kenya Lionesses some tough time because they have used to play at the top tier against the top nation teams in rugby as far as women is concerned, your New Zealand, your Fiji. But again, look at how they're going to face them. In terms of Kenya versus Colombia, also Colombia has been learning how Kenya is playing. So I think going for this one, Kenya is very powerful. It's have the pace, but Coach Mwanja has a lot of to do it, especially in tweaking the game and knowing that the girls can have the guts to finish the game. Because looking at the past tournament, we finished third overall in that particular tournament, picking bronze. What led us to perform that way, decimally, if I can call it, it's because we didn't have that consistency and power and strength to start the game on a high note and finish on a high note. Towards the middle of the game, you see that the team is getting a little bit tired. So I think Coach Mwanja has a lot of things to do because right now they are playing with their destiny. There's something they're playing at hand. So they need to finish top two because now it means that either team that can give them some headache is either Brazil or Spain.
Yeah, Alex, I completely agree with you. I will say, though, that I think that the results in Poland was always going to be a challenge for two reasons. One, as we discussed previously, the last time we did this podcast, was that I think the Coach Mwanja had an opportunity to try things with players, with tactics, and he did. And I don't think that all of them worked. But that's, even if you try something and it fails, it's still a good lesson. And secondly, I think that the girls mentally perhaps were not all there because they knew that they were through already. They win or lose, they knew that they were going to finish top. So it really didn't change much for them. So I think that perhaps they switched off a little bit. And, as you've pointed out, their performances in the games weren't at the standard we're used to. But I think that that's as a result of that consequence. And in terms of the coach, I don't think we've had any other game or tournament where the coach will be such a central figure tactically, because the girls have proved they have what it takes. They proved that they can execute the plans. So everyone will, not to put too much pressure on Coach Mwanja, he's done a great job, but everyone will be looking at him now because if he has the tactics to outsmart the opposition, we know the girls have the skills. That's very clear. So, I think it's really a combination of the two of them, and then we'll see where we end up.
Look at Pool B. It has China, it has fellow Africans, that's South Africa. It has Ireland as well and Argentina. Argentina and South Africa coming from the Challenger Series. Then you have Ireland and China dropping from the main World 7 Series.
As a Patriot, I'm glad we're not in that pool.
Well, it's the pool of death.
It is
If
the
you
pool
look
of
at
death.
it, Argentina
Yeah.
were very strong.
Exceptionally strong. Argentina, South Africa,
Ireland. Then you have China as well.
And China hasn't played bad rugby at all. I think very underestimated. Like when the few games we watched them play in the sevens, they played good rugby, unexpectedly good rugby. I think that just because, and this is something about sevens, just because they're not a traditional rugby nation, doesn't mean they can't be good at sevens. They played some very good rugby. They've earned the right to be there. Like you've said, it's the pool of death. I mean, it's not worth too much conversation because we don't have to deal with it. But I'm secretly glad that we're not there. Or not so secretly glad. But having said that, though, to go back to what I'd said earlier, even if we were there, I believe in the girls.
The girls have trained enough.
The Lionesses,
have maneuvers in that.
Their roar will scare the angels. They will frighten their opposition because they have played fearlessly. They've played with faith. They've played with courage. They've corrected mistakes. And I think that, like I said, I think we've been robbed because I think we could have been a core status contender. It's okay. We're not going to be there, but we still have points to prove. It just takes us a bit longer to get there. I have no doubt that if this team continues playing the way that it does, we'll eventually get there. It's just going to take us another year. It's fine. We'll do it. But no matter who we face, I think, yes, the opposition might have been, when you play bigger teams like Ireland, like South Africa, like China, in such a short period of time, it takes a while to recover. If we had more time in between to play them, if we were in that other pool, it would have definitely been a challenge. But it's not to say, it's my belief still that we could beat all of them. I think the girls are that good.
Something to watch for. That's the Kenya Lionesses. Will roar in Los Angeles, California this weekend. So there's Kenyans, they love rugby. They love rallying behind their nations. And that is the Kenya Lionesses being there playing in the Challenger playoffs, or rather in the HSB 7 Series playoffs. So what message do you have for Kenyans? Because hakuna kulala. The timings in USA right now, I think the matches will be at night. So a lot of things.
Our
night,
yes. Their day.
Their day. So for us, yes, Kenyans, it's something that we're going to enjoy as we like doing. Thanks to M-Pesa, who has managed to make sure that the girls are sorted in either way.
Interesting fact about the United States is that the majority of Kenya's diaspora are on the West Coast. So to all our Kenyans there, if you are in Los Angeles or anywhere in California, you pack your car, you drive to LA, you get to the stadium, and you support the girls.
Irrespective of the new format, the Kenya Lionesses, we believe in you. We know you'll do it. You've done it in the Challenger Series, becoming the top nation, beating various teams like Argentina, on top of teams like Colombia, South Africa, who have been a very big competitor for the Kenya Lionesses for a very long time. So we believe in you. Go Kenya Lionesses. You're going to play in the Division 2. Yes, you had targeted to go to the core status, but again, we're going to celebrate you because, as Kabira said, the next year, we're going to make sure that the next season, Kenya Lionesses play in the core status for the very first time. So looking forward, let's go support the Kenya Lionesses.